Hello and welcome to episode 152 of the Nerds at Large Gaming Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Darby Hammond.
I'm Jeff Mayo.
And Jeff, it's back to be in the it's back to be. It's
back
good.
to the future, baby.
It's back to good. Good talk words. It's good to be back in a normal podcast for the first time in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
All these like special edition podcasts we've been doing. Collector's items.
Yep.
Jeff, I'm going crazy. I'm a little loopy right now. Apparently, I didn't know I was loopy, but I'm loopy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. We all know how you're doing.
Really excited to talk about some video games. We have quite a pretty big show today. It was, I think you described it as all killer, no filler, which probably means we need to get started. Jeff, you might have to take over. I'm like having a stroke over here.
Oh God!
Before we start the actual podcast, I want to let you know that we did yet another Last of Us Part 2 Spoilercast. We just can't stop talking about the game. But this time we did it with Mr. William Outlaw. So you gotta go hear what Will thinks. Yeah. You gotta go hear what Will thinks. And he'll be like the first person on any of our Spoilercasts that actually has some legit criticism. Wow.
No criticism.
Yeah,
never.
He will never be back on our content ever again.
Everything's perfect. Pay us, corporations.
Yeah, I mean, Naughty Dog's going to stop sending us checks if we start talking negative about the game. I mean, let's be real. So go listen to that and the Nerds at Large Spoilercast podcast feed or at youtube.com/Nerds at Large. And also, please go check out our last week's episode where we did a video game character Hall of Fame, where we talked about some of our favorite video game characters of all time. And of course, we also made a hypothetical Super Smash Bros. Game and made move sets for each one of them. It's one of my favorite things we did. It was a whole lot of fun to record, and I did a bunch of crazy, weird editing stuff. That it's pretty simple, but I was pretty proud of it. So please go check it out.
And we will make that a frequent segment. We're planning on like the start of each month.
Yes.
So next month we'll each add a new character.
DLC.
Will we occasionally have third-party DLC?
Ooh. Wait, does third party mean we introduce a movie character?
I'm talking about we get like Will or Jacob in here and they add a character.
Oh shit,
that's what I meant.
Yeah, we hadn't even talked about that, but yeah, I'm down. But then do we whose team do they go on the screen? Do we draft them? I don't know. We'll see.
I'll let you figure that out.
We'll see what happens. But let's get into the podcast and let's get into what we've been playing because, ladies and gentlemen, it's quite a lot. Especially since we haven't recorded a normal episode in several weeks. We have quite a big list. And right at the top is a pretty new game that's not completely out, but it had a beta or early access period. Is it still going on?
As far as I know.
Okay, it might still be going on, and that is Grounded from Obsidian Entertainment. I played it on Game Pass on PC, which is great. I never would have checked this out if I had to pay the $30. I just wouldn't have taken this gamble to play this for a night. But I played it over with the Respawning Fire guys for their game night. So it was there was 6 of us total in the call. So we had to separate into 2 teams. It was me and Chad, and then the rest of them. And then eventually Chad had to go, so I joined in. And one of them had to go, so I joined in with the larger group later on in it. So I kind of got. And me and Chad, it was very obvious that me and Chad are not super survival horror guys, so we were just really bad at it, and we heard them talking about all these crazy structures they're making, and it's me and Chad just kept getting killed by spiders over and over again. We're I don't this sounds cool, we haven't seen any of this.
But Darby, why didn't you just for the lulz go into the settings and just make the spider a giant blob with eyes?
I did. I really thought about doing it, not because I actually have arachnophobia, but I just really wanted to see what it looks like. I've seen.
Would that make it more terrifying?
I've seen pictures of it, and it legitimately looks more scary to me.
Now, good on them for having that feature.
Yeah, no, it's really it's not. I don't think it's a feature that anyone would have criticized them for not having, but it's just it's a cool oh, okay, you actually thought about that. You know, it's and I'm sure that accessibility and options is always A+. But anyway, so I got some experience with just what I would be in this game left to my own devices, which is not good. This is not really my type of game.
Yeah.
This whole like building aspect. Usually in these type of games, I mooch off of other people who really do enjoy this. But that being said, especially when I moved over to their other game and they had already built up some stuff in here, because it's very much just like you scavenge for supplies and you're building things type of game. And obviously it's the Honey I Shrunk the Kids type thing. You're like little kids shrunk down in a backyard. And I got playing with them kind of a sense of like the actual progression you're supposed to go on, and it was a lot of fun. I really did have a good time with it. Again, definitely not my particular type of game, but it shows that if you're playing with a bunch of friends, it could still be like, I would never go play this on my own. Never, ever.
No, I imagine most people who really enjoy it probably would feel similarly.
Yeah, I think it's like Sea of Thieves. It reminds me of Sea of Thieves a lot, not necessarily in the game type, but in the like. It's very story light. It kind of just throws you in there, and it's more just like a sandbox for you and your friends to play around in. And this time it's a shrunk down backyard instead of a pirate ship. But yeah, that being said, I think obviously it's early access and it's somewhat content light, but even what was there, I think there was enough to... I could totally see how this could keep people entertained for a long time. Yeah. And even the short time, like we technically got to the end of the story content very fast in this early access, but just roaming around and like we would go down tunnels and realize we couldn't really get that far. We had to go back and craft something else. Just like that progression over time was really fun. And there was already multiple moments where like we're going down in this dark cave and like we can barely see what's going on. And then someone's like, oh shit, a spider. And like we all like running out of the tunnel. So
I gotta go get my backpack.
Damn it.
Did you find the battle toad?
I didn't. Someone else did. Someone else saw it. Yeah, I didn't see it. And there's also like a robot that I also didn't get to see because I had just been killed by a spider. But I was close by and I heard Chad talking to the robot. I didn't actually get to see it. The spiders were just like, they would come after me. They would pick me out of the group and just kill me over and over again. They kill you in like one hit. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I think we need to see. This is very, very much not a full game. It was pretty much a demo. It's not a ton in there, but I think it's definitely a good start. It has some technical issues. It's not the prettiest game in the world or anything, but yeah.
Well, something I will bring up at least a little bit. Something we missed in the podcast last week is the success of the early success. What was it? 1 million in about 2 days or something, 2-3 days,
something. Yeah, I remember seeing the like Steam. It was just like in the top of Steam or something.
Yeah, it's doing really well. I think it's doing well on Twitch, and that people are really enjoying it. So, which is really big for Obsidian, obviously. And I think this was a very small team throughout the whole thing. So that's good. Obviously, a win for Microsoft to just kind of have that, since this is technically the first game that they released officially under Microsoft. I mean, Outer Worlds came out when they were doing it, but that was still private division, still publishing it and doing all that kind of stuff. But this is their first Microsoft published one,
right? And I think it also shows like it's a cool. I like seeing these big developers working on kind of a smaller game and being rewarded for it. It shows that not every game needs to be this crazy big AAA giant studio type thing. This was a cool side project,
and it's kind of like it might help Microsoft kind of find their niche, at least for some of the things between Sea of Thieves and this.
I think so.
They're, like you said, they're very similar but different, obviously. So people can play both and get different experiences, but they both seem to be doing well in similar things with as far as like Twitch and Steam. Like Microsoft games have been selling gangbusters on Steam from what I can tell. So,
and I can tell, like, playing with them, I think, like, Holden and Dallas and Matt, I think all of them had played Sea of Thieves together before. So I could already tell that they were, like, falling back into their, like, okay, you go do this, you go do this, you know, like, so I think a lot of people who really like Sea of Thieves will probably like this. And if Microsoft sees success with both of these games, I could see them just doing this in the future, doing this same, like, style of game, you know, teamwork type of game, but just in another setting. Like this one's in space, this one's in this one, you know, like, that could be.
It is kind of crazy that, like, you know, considering how we're comparing Sea of Thieves and Grounded, that Grounded development started before Microsoft acquisition.
Yeah,
and it's just kind of like
because it slots in so well, you know, so, next to Sea of Thieves.
Good accent.
It's weird because, again, like, if it wasn't for Game Pass, like, with Game Pass, I could see myself in the future, especially if Chad and Holden and all of them. Chad didn't really like it that much, so probably not Chad, but Holden and the rest of them, if they wanted to play or something, or, like, you know, me and you could join in with them.
I definitely want to jump in at some point.
I could totally see if I had to pay $30, I would probably be I'm sorry, guys. I just, you know, I don't think it, because it's, again, not necessarily my type of game, but that's why Game Pass is so cool, because there's experiences like that I enjoy, but kind of more passively, but, you know, I get the chance to do that, and that'd be cool. So I will definitely probably play this game again at some point when everyone wants to, because of Game Pass, you know, which is really cool.
Well, speaking of experiences I know you enjoy.
Yes.
Let's talk about experience I am currently enjoying, and that is Persona 5 Royal.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy he's finally doing it, but also we're already having to do the, okay, what can you talk to me about and what can't you, because of the new content.
Well, at least right now I'm at the point with the new content, me just kind of saying what it is not really that much of a thing, because I'm not even, like, pretty much the extent of, like, new story content is what you would obviously be worried about is, hey, these characters exist and here are kind of the roles based on what I've seen so far.
Right.
Nothing too crazy. The thing is that I'm sure it's getting you more excited is all the new mechanics and shit that I'm like, wait, isn't this new? And then I kind of clarify with you. It's like, yeah, that is. And I look it up online when we're both unsure. It's like, oh shit, they had it all this shit in.
So much of it seems like it's some of it almost seems more than just, like, quality of life type thing. Some of it is legitimately like, this is just going to make the game a lot easier, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just, you know, saying.
Well, a couple things we can kind of get into. Well, one of the big things that I'm loving, and I know you're excited to get into whenever you play this, you play Royal, is Morgana doesn't tell you to sleep every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, as far as, like, Morgana telling me to go to sleep, without letting me do anything, that's only happened a handful of times. When at this point, this probably happened like a dozen times.
Which I do think, I mean, I think that's giving you more options to be able to level things up and do that, I think, is, like, nothing but good, because honestly, I would recommend anyone playing Persona 5 for the first time, like, don't really look up, I mean, you can if you want, but I would recommend not to look up guides and to just kind of, like, go through it and, like, hang out with what confidants you end up falling into or whatever, and just kind of, like, don't worry about, I have to get the maximum number of confidants. Like, I wouldn't worry about all that, but I will say, I think in base Persona 5, if you play it super casually, as far as, like, I wasn't trying for anything, I just, like, saw what happened. When I got to the end, I wish, like, you should be able to get more confidants without trying, basically. And I think in P5 Royal, it sounds like you probably will. You'll probably get to points in the game where I was like, I have nowhere near enough kindness, and you'll probably be A-okay because of all the stuff you can do.
Yeah, it was just even, like, a lot of this, extra time I get is at night. Even then, it's like, well, now I don't have to use the afternoon to try to get my knowledge up for some reason, and then I can go hang out with Yuji or something.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll, like, max them out a lot earlier. Yeah.
There are a couple of them, like, and there are a couple new confidants in there. I'm like, I'm gonna assume I'm gonna have to max you out, because the game kind of hints at, like, the counselor character, like, you only have till November.
Do you know the thing about that? About the counselor character and you having till November?
If it's talking about, like, saying any really story stuff, I don't really know anything. I try to avoid stuff.
I'm not gonna tell you, like, what the story thing is, but you have to get him maxed out.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
You literally can't play the new semester if you don't.
Oh shit! I'm focusing on that bitch.
And I know that because I was listening to Kotaku Split Screen. Someone wrote in and they said, I didn't realize that, and they got to that point or whatever. They're like many hours in now, and they're locked out. They can't play the new semester. I'm like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell? I mean,
like I said,
apparently the game like flashes red lights, like you need to do this, you need to do this. But
I'm gonna max out all the new ones.
At least I'm almost certain that he is the one. That's what it sounded like. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just letting you know as Jeff, like, make sure you get.
Hey, that's good to know. So I know to focus on that guy. I think I'm already level 3 with him. Like, you get the first two. Like, I think you get to level 3 like within 2 days or some shit.
I'm sure you have plenty of time. It's just like,
I'm in May, so
yeah.
I got to November. But as far as different stuff, like one thing I was unsure about is guns. They reload. It's like, hey, they reload after every battle. It's like, that wasn't the case in the first one, right? And it's such a small thing I couldn't remember. I asked him, he was like, I don't know. Then I looked it up. It's like, oh no, it reloaded unless you use an item after every castle visit.
Right.
Like, so I'm using my gun a whole lot more now.
Which is why I basically never used them.
Yeah.
It was just
besides a couple ones, like, okay, I know I only really guns work on this, or gun is weakening, so I might as well use a bullet to knock it down. So that's
the only time
I use SP.
Right.
So I'm using my guns a whole lot more.
You just go in there and there's like at least a base amount of damage you can do every single battle because you just unload the gun in them. It definitely changes things a lot.
And something that I just got is persona like abilities. Like they have the spells and stuff, but a characteristic that each persona has. There's some overlap. Like some of them have the same, of course. It's not like an infinite amount, but that definitely changed things up, and just like beyond the stats and the ability than the actual like magic stuff that they each have. It's like, oh, there's a more reason to pay attention to what persona I'm actually getting. And I like that. That is besides again the spells and just me looking at their stats that barely don't change too much. That's just another reason for me to decide this persona over another. And something cool, when you could fuse two personas into a third one, you get a choice between either the ability that the persona you're making naturally has, or the two abilities from the fusees. So there's also some strategy from that, as far as like when you have multiple options to fuse this, like, okay, obviously the spells are something to think about, but what ability do I want this persona to have?
I bet you can get. I bet that unlocks some stuff. Like certain personas with certain abilities could probably do things that like the base game.
I imagine that. Like I imagine like especially in hard that changes the meta greatly.
I'm sure, yeah.
Like people are saying, okay, what's the perfect persona with ability and stuff, and how do I get it?
That is interesting because I mean, there was definitely I dabbled in the persona fusing and the guillotine, all that stuff, like enough, but it definitely wasn't like I wasn't like glued to it at all times. There was definitely sometimes I just had, like
I probably look at that thing way too much, a lot more than I need to, but I just enjoy it. Like trying to figure out, okay, how do I get to that?
Yeah. See, I'm somewhere in between. I don't not enjoy it, but it's also not my be all end all. I'm also fine with like, okay, I like this one. This is going good.
It's one of those weird things. Like sometimes when messing around, like deciding what I'm doing with units in Fire Emblem, like there were times when I played Persona 5. When I played it the first time, I got like 40 hours in. I think there was like 1 or 2 times I sat there like an hour trying to figure things out, like with my personas.
I spent an hour roaming around the city and talking to random people and doing shit. But,
do all that too, of course.
Yeah,
big part of the game. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. You got a grappling hook now.
Yeah, which that also it sounds like that means you can literally like you can bypass some areas, or like
there was one particular area where it's like, oh, you kind of bypass things, but overall it's more like, oh, they added new areas to the dungeon because there are a couple new collectibles that they add room for, and you use your grappling hook a lot of times to get there.
It's so weird because like I've never played a re-release of a game that like changes this type of stuff. Usually it's like, okay, we're adding DLC onto it or something, or we're maybe adding a few quality of life, but it's like really weird to have like, you're playing the same game I played before, kind of, but it also has all these like new characters and new other stuff. Like that.
And I'm sure all the stuff I'm saying makes you more excited to replay the game.
Oh, totally! I am so stoked to replay it. Yeah.
And as mentioned, I got the physical copy, so you'll be able to just
definitely. I'm sure you probably haven't seen her that much, but what have you thought about Kazumi so far?
I can't really have much of opinions. Like, I like her design and everything, and she seems cool, but she hasn't really been that big part of it. She was, I'm okay with saying this because it's the first 10 minutes of the fucking game. She's in the prologue thing before Joker gets arrested. She's in that part now. She was inserted into that, and they say enough. I won't exactly say what they say. Enough stuff's like, okay, what is your role with the fan of things? How do you fit in with this party up to this point? Especially since I didn't play Persona 5 all the way through. I don't know when that whole heist where he gets arrested actually happens on the timeline.
Right.
So I'm like, how far into and all that kind of stuff, it adds to mystery. And she pops in sometimes. She was added to a couple scenes. And it made it very clear. Oh, they brought back like Kamoshida's voice actor to do additional lines, which is great. And there are a couple other things like they added some stuff to Kamoshida's boss fight as well. A couple new attacks and stages and that kind of thing. I imagine they'll be doing that with other bosses.
I've heard some of the almost pretty much every change I've heard to like boss fights have always been like, oh, that makes it better. Like that sounds better, So.
Yeah, and it's at her, and they immediately made it clear. Oh, she has some connection with the counselor.
Yeah. I really luckily I've been able to stay spoiler free. I have absolutely no clue like when and how she's introduced really.
Yeah.
So that's just a bizarre thing to me. That it's like it's kind of the same story, but there's an entire new party member. Like that changes so much because one thing I love about Persona 5 is like I hate it when you play an RPG with a big party, but it feels like half of the party members never actually interact with each other. Like they only interact with you. A lot of games are designed that way because like you could have any party member at any time. It has to so by default they can only really talk to you. In Persona 5 it really felt like a group. It felt like every interaction, every different pair of people had some sort of interactions with each other. So that's what I would really hope, that they re-recorded enough lines so that Kazumi feels natural in there.
I'm very curious what happens when she kind of gets more involved with the
story.
That's
a weird thing to have a storyline and then it's like, oh, but this time she's in there. It's like, oh wow, well, like how's that gonna work? It's interesting. And I know P4 fans are like so used to this. I'm sure like these type of changes with Golden and everything but for me it's
it sounds like I tried to stay away from it because fear of us. It sounds like people like Kazumi a lot more than Marie.
I know people don't like Marie. Yeah. Well, any more P5 thoughts?
Not at the moment. I would definitely have more as we go along.
And I will definitely play this at some point. For sure.
Well, Darby, since we're talking about the longest game known to man just now, we're going to go to a much shorter one.
Let's have a little refresher. Let's take a short hike. Why don't we? So last week.
What is time?
What is time? Time is irrelevant. My boss was out of town at work, so I had like very little to do. So I was actually just like sitting in front of my computer, just like very rarely having to do anything at work. And I'm like, you know what? A short hike. I got it in the bundle for racial justice. That was Humble Bundle, wasn't it? Or no, it was the Itch.io thing that happened a while back. And I've had it downloaded on my computer for a long time. I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's do this. I know it's really short and a nice like chill game. And I am so glad that I did, because it was the perfect just pandemic terribleness like cure and refresher, because the entire time I played this game I was just in such a good mood. It's the very small indie game made by one guy, and I think like one other person did music, and that was it. And it's like the art style is very interesting. It kind of has this like graininess of like a retro game. It almost looks like a handheld, like I don't know, a Game Boy or something like that. That's kind of what the art style somewhat reminds me of. But it's not like a 2D thing. It's open. It's like, it is an open world thing, kind of like you have this island that you're that you are on. You're playing this. It's a like anthropomorphic, like it's like Night in the Woods, BoJack Horseman type thing, where everyone's like personified animals. And I think your person's name is Claire. I think like her name isn't really brought up that much. It's like your aunt is there, and like she says your name a handful of times, but it's not very often. But I think her name is Claire. And you're just on vacation at this. She is a park ranger, and you're on vacation at this mountain, this national park that she is a ranger at. And you can tell like Claire doesn't really want to be there. She's kind of cynical about the whole thing or whatever. And you just start like going around. And the game is very just like, it just drops you in. And it's like, okay, go. And there's like no map or anything like that. You just you figure out as you go around. Like by the end of it, it's like I knew my way around this mountain because it just like made sense. And it was small enough to where you could really find your way around. Track of things. Right, yeah. And it's really just like you talk to people, and there are a bunch of different quests. It never gives you like a quest like list or anything like that. It's like a lot more natural of just like,
remember, it's like, oh yeah, this person wanted this. Let's go.
And stuff happens at such a great clip where I was never really lost. It was like, okay, this person needs this, and just naturally, as I would just like choose to fly around in some random location, I just like somehow always naturally just like, oh shit, there's the thing, you know. It's like, it was just like the pacing of it was really good, even though it never forced you in any direction. It was just completely open the whole time. And the writing is just lovely. It's very Night in the Woods. Nice. Very, very Night in the Woods. There's a lot of like, the humor is really, really nice.
Night in the Woods also on that pack.
Yes, yeah, which, I mean, play Night in the Woods. Absolutely play Night in the Woods. But yeah, like you would love the dialogue in this game because it has a lot of the same type of humor.
I'm definitely gonna play
the Woods has. Yeah. And it's the game overall certainly doesn't have the like emotional crazy impact of like Night in the Woods. It's also not trying to be that. It is. But not to say that it doesn't have. There are a few moments, and like one moment in particular where like it actually, I was like, felt it. There was actually like some emotional pulling, but it was like just enough. It was just enough to where I got to the end and I was like, that was an awesome slice of life. You know, I just got to see a pretty narrow window into this person's life and what they're going through, but it didn't dwell on it. It wasn't this like crazy overarching thing. It was like, you know, you just got to see this one day in this person's life. And I don't know, like all the characters, and just like literally the game is like 2-3 hours, but I'll definitely remember a lot of those like dialogue things between them just in those like very short amount of time. It just had a very awesome vibe to it. And then I just realized I haven't said anything about the main gameplay thing in here. I think it's also really strong because the central gameplay thing is that you can fly with her. You can like flap your wings and then you can glide down.
Oh yeah.
And you start off where you can only like flap like once, but then you're collecting these golden feathers that you can find around the world or you can buy from different people. And as like you start off with 1, and by the end you have like 11 of them. So by the end, like at first you just like flap once and like glide for a second to hit the ground, but by the end you can flap like all the way up to the very top. And that mechanic, especially for being made by one person, like it's probably my favorite flying mechanic in a game. It's just so freaking satisfying. I mean, it's simple, but it is like most of my time was spent just randomly flying up and then just gliding down and admiring the scenery because it was just so just instantly fun. I have a feeling that's the thing he made first. And he's like, okay, what can I do with this? Okay. You know, like, I made this awesome flying mechanic. What can I do with it? Yeah. So I highly recommend this game. Like I really, really, really enjoyed it. It's gonna hold a special place, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
And we will have more discussion when I get around to it.
Yes.
We can go into a little more deeper in the
super story. Short. If you just want to be able to say you beat, add another game to the list of games you beat this year. Yeah. That's a good one.
Did it come out this year? I can't remember.
That you beat this year. Yeah, you know, it came out I think 2 years ago actually, or at least a year ago.
Well, Darby, This is something that didn't come out 2 years ago. This is something that came out last month. Paper Mario and the Origami King. I thought I might beat this game by the time we got to this podcast, but I was in a mood for Persona.
It happens to the best of us. Anime happens, Jeff.
Anime happens. I just need a shirt that says that. It's my slogan for life. But yeah, played a little more, some more Paper Mario. I'm in the middle of getting to the third streamer. Need to pick up that pace. So really loving this game. The writing has continued to be excellent. I surprisingly teared up at one point. I didn't expect going to this game doing that. I told Darby what happened.
Yeah. Because I watched enough of him playing to where we were both like, is this about this? I think I know where this is going.
I think I know where this is going. And it happened. I'm like, oh no. And just the way they did, it's like, yeah. The writing in this is excellent as far as like characters, just the humor of it. Just where I played so far and just what it sounds. Some impressions I read, it doesn't let up with that. Which is nice. This is easily the most, based on what I'm reading, and especially what fans says, this is probably the most beloved Paper Mario maybe since Thousand Year Door, maybe.
I mean, obviously it's a little there's some controversy and everything, but especially from the writing and character side, I've seen everyone say like this.
People like the mixed in color splash, but this seems to be a strong point and so strong to the point that people kind of looking over the flaws or the issues they might have with the general gameplay and not being a
sounds like your impressions of this have honestly just kept ramping up every time I talk to you. You're like more excited about the game.
Oh yeah, and the environments have still been crazy good, and I enjoyed the battle system. It's like the enemy bosses. I mean the regular enemies. Nothing too special. Like once you go to a new area, the puzzles are different, which are nice. But those can get old pretty quickly when you're seeing the same puzzles and stuff. Boss fights are still A+. Those have been great and all that, and that's an important thing. I love the pacing of this. Like just going through it, thinking more as an adventure. You're just going around doing stuff, talking to these characters with occasional battle is a good mindset to go into. I think with this game.
Yeah. As we've talked about a lot before, it's very experimental. System, and I can understand how it's kind of weird if you go and actually try to battle everything. You're gonna have a worse time than if you did, which is it's an odd thing. I can totally see how people get.
And it makes me sad that Olivia and Bobby the Babam will probably only be in this game and no other ones. Paper Mario otherwise.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is Paper Mario and these friends for Smash. It's definitely made my want for Paper Mario, more Paper Mario representation grow.
Put them in there, you cowards.
Why the fuck not? Yeah.
Gino and Paper Mario in the same pack.
I'll take it.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. Whatever, man. Yeah. But definitely I want to hear when you have beaten the game.
Yeah.
More of your final thoughts. And yeah. Maybe I'll get this game. Maybe I'll play this game eventually.
I did get a physical copy.
Maybe I'll
for you and my sister.
Yeah,
both interested, but not interested enough to get.
We'll see how that goes.
And the price will not go down.
Did you get Link's Awakening physical?
That I got digitally.
Shame.
I think Taylor has it physically.
Do
you want me to?
I'll just
hook up.
Steal that from her. I'll just break in. I
think I got it after Christmas. Okay, now let's talk a little about Dreams VR.
Dreams
that got released 2 weeks ago. We just haven't had the podcast to me talk about it.
Yeah. So how much did you actually end up playing of it?
I think I ended up playing a couple hours. I did another session of it.
Okay,
that's another point. Nice. It is very neat. I played the meteor molecule built stuff to kind of show off some stuff. Like, this is awesome. Obviously, the meteor molecule stuff is kind of more solid, has a more solid foundation about it because there's tools and all that kind of stuff. It was like crazy because the main level thing they did, it just has a bunch of levels. Like, it's like a hub, and you go into different like levels / games or whatever. And part of it is games where you actually interact with things, and some is just like you looking at like stuff they made in VR. And one of them is one of the characters or one of the creatures from Art Stream as a statue, and you activate it, and he just moves around. You just look at it like, whoa. It's like, it's really awesome. And then just messing around with some games. Obviously, people need to get more used to it. I'm excited to go back in pretty soon and see how far people have come. with it. The spoopy games will be there for sure. People like the Five Nights at Freddy's are like, man, that's probably gonna be jump scares like it's Shrek Swamp thing.
I'm sure there's gonna be VR horror in the hands of the public is definitely gonna produce some terrifying results.
We gotta put Olivia in there. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah. Me and Olivia would both be babies about it.
But it's a lot of fun. It's really cool. I'm glad they took their time because I know some people were kind of like, "What's taking so long with this?" And I know it's like, it's taking longer than they said. But now that seeing all the stuff they did with it and like all the options and the stuff, like, okay, I see why they need to make it. And you just even kind of think about it, it's like they need to make it so this works that people can just make random shit and work in VR. And they have a nice thing where if the game goes below a certain frame rate, it will be like, you cannot play this in VR.
I think that's very big because that would be one of my first concerns would be the fact that like actual VR studios will make games that make me sick and everything, or that like don't control super well. So a random dude on his couch or whatever, I would be very concerned.
I can't remember the exact numbers for it, but there's like a couple levels where obviously if it has a high frame rate, it's fine, whatever. But if it gets below a certain point, it's like, no, you're just not going to be able to play this. And there's like another one was like, okay, so this can kind of dip a little bit. The frame rate's not great. Do you want to try this? Like, it's like pretty much if you don't have VR legs, you're not going to have a good time, but it's not terrible kind of thing.
It was interesting. I'm sure that was a very hard thing and a delicate balance for them to get that working in a way that would not make people sick, because it's already hard enough to have the creation tool this robust, and then to also have like people's heads are gonna be in this, and you're like moving around and everything. Like, I'm sure that's very complicated. Yeah.
But I think they've done a really good job. Again, I'm excited to see if they do more. When I up my my frequency of jumping into dreams and just checking things out, I did that some for a little bit, kind of died down a little bit, which is with all this stuff going on and other games. So I want to make that more frequently. I want to stream it at some point with and we just look at VR levels and all that kind of fun stuff. Like, I'm continuously impressed with this game and what people are like, players are creating and that kind of stuff, and how Media Molecule is handling it. Like, I'm assuming from Sony's standpoint, it may not be selling as well as they probably not. But as far as the actual game,
I hope it's. I mean, at least Dreams is there, even if it never ends up selling that well, and Media Molecule goes under. I hope not, but
what I really
Dreams is there, so I'm excited to see for years to come.
What I am, and we talked about this before. What I really hope will happen is at some point, especially since Horizon just released on PC, Sony gives the okay for Dreams, because that would be huge.
Like I said, I'm just naturally. Even though I'm sure the things I would make would be terrible, I like creating things, and that would be what I would naturally be drawn to. But I just really don't want to make things with that controller and everything. Like, if I could do it with mouse and keyboard, that would definitely change the game for me. Yeah.
I'm just going to assume that that's something they're working on right now. I have to think.
And it's like, I understand God of War or whatever. Not you want people to buy your PlayStation for that. It's like, it's Dreams. Come on, just put it. Just put it on the PC.
Yeah,
I would think it would. Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. Yeah, we should. I'm sure like a lot of podcasts are saying, we need to play more Dreams. We need to play more Dreams. Yeah. It's just hard to make time for it. Well, with that being said, Jeff, let's get into the news. News jingle.
Jingle, 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 Darby. Well, speaking of Sony,
got
a couple Sony stories.
Sony's been busy this week. Not all of it great news. But
one of the big things will wait till the end to do. But first, let's talk about a state of play, which you can watch my reactions to on the Nerds at Large YouTube channel and on the VODs on the Twitch channel. Nothing too crazy as far as like my reactions. As far as that, it's hard for me to be.
Jeff, you're not selling it. It was wild.
Yeah, it was wild.
You'll never believe it.
I think my post monologue thing was.
It was. I did listen. I did listen to that.
So that's that. So let's get into. We're gonna go for the one order. We're not gonna talk about in great detail everything, obviously. but we can give a shout out. And Darby's watched some of this now, so we can get some of his impression on some things. Some of it he watched like right before we recorded. First, let's talk about Crash 4. It's about time. That's how they started it, with about a 5-minute little rundown of what's going on in the game. And Darby, I'm now all in on this. I think I'm getting this game day one.
Yeah, I know you said it. So what? I agree. This was a very, very, very good trailer. But what specifically about this pushed you over the edge?
So here's the weird thing. A lot of the stuff, like they announced new things here that got me really excited. But I feel like I was more sold before they got to the new stuff, which we'll get to. I don't know what it is. Like the more they kind of reiterated some stuff, like with the stuff with the mask and explain more and all that kind of stuff, and with the characters you play as. Like just watching that and thinking about it, I was like, okay, the platforming looks excellent and all that. What they're doing interesting things, and just kind of thinking about it, like it has about everything. Like I like all the parts of platformers I love between multiple characters with different movesets. That's something I usually love in these kind of things. Different transformation with the mask and everything, with changing mechanics and very platforming and all that. Yeah, crazy. Different levels. The animation for like cutscenes and stuff are excellent. Yeah, really stepped up the game with that. And surprisingly, one thing I was like, I really like the costume designs for this one, the different costumes. And I was like, this looks fun. I'll definitely switch between costumes for that. Yeah. And like I definitely saw all the time they announced Dingo Dial was gonna be playing. I was like, fuck yeah,
that's what. Like this game really seems like the developers sat down and they were saying, okay, so we're making a new Crash game. Everyone's first thought is going to be, oh, it's 2020. Like, you're gonna release a full priced Crash game, like an endless runner with a full price. It's like that's not gonna be worth it. It looks like they knew that was the chief concern, so they're like, let's prove to them that take is gonna be wrong, because we're gonna add in so much damn stuff. You're playing as Crash, as Coco, as Vortex. As
it would be a major complaint or bummer if we couldn't look at it and feel like, okay, this $60 price point is justified, because Crash Insane Trilogy, if I'm not mistaken, sold like 10 million copies. Yeah. This is going to sell enough to justify the budget, like to make a $60 Crash game.
Yeah, but it's also just content wise, it's hard to like watch that trailer and be like, no, this shouldn't be a full. It's like, no, this is a full game. Like, they're going pretty out there.
And those inverted mode is just like completely changing. Like, it's going to be flipped. Also, we're doing all this crazy.
Yeah, that was like really bizarre. I mean, not saying it's bad. It was like some of those like art style things. I'm like, this is really weird. Like in the inverted mode.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a challenge mode, like inverted completionist and all that kind of stuff. Like, which I don't know how much I'll get into that. We'll see. Like, I at least obviously dabble into it.
But it seems like, and from people who have played it, especially like Tim Geddes and Barrett Courtney, kind of funny. They talked about how the game is very challenging, like the old Crash games were, and it sounds like there's a lot of like replayability, a lot of different. I think a lot of love was put into this game, very clearly. And the very first time this game was showed, I think the art style, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this art style completely, but I think in this last trailer it popped a lot more. Yeah. I think now I'm like, okay, I think in motion especially, this looks very, very good. Yeah.
They used their time wisely as far as showing it at this.
Right, like you said. I mean, it didn't even feel like 5 minutes. I felt like it was just like snapping. It was boom, 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 boom. It was like, okay, you sold the game. Good job.
Yep, I'm now completely in. Especially now, as of right now, like there's nothing around there I won't anyway. So that just makes that decision so much easier.
Yeah. If you get it physical, I might try it. I hate their Crash games. Like, it's a personal me thing, because I just don't like their endless runner type thing. This definitely looks like it's like going it's not just you're running straight and jumping in the thing like Crash used to do. This looks like it gave me very like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze vibes.
I've heard that thrown around a little bit. It's like you said the magic words.
But yeah, that was the magic words.
You missing one of the Go platformers? Come on.
Now I don't think its soundtrack is going to be anywhere near Tropical Freeze.
I mean, come on. How many soundtracks are? Come on. Then the other really exciting thing is Hitman 3. They show a little of that. It's like, okay, what are they showing here? Then they like zoom into the back of Agent 47's head, and then it's like, oh, VR, baby. Okay.
These hands.
It's like, okay, a VR mode? Oh, it's probably just a little level, maybe like one level, and then they just kept on going. It's like, okay, they're doing cool things like the killing, and it's like the whole trilogy is completely playable in VR. You're like, what the fuck? What? That got the biggest reaction out of me for sure.
In 2020? It's like that's the biggest surprise to me. It's like RE7 happened, and that was awesome. I'm glad it happened. But like back then, I was like, oh, VR is this new thing coming up. It's going to be a big deal. It's like, Capcom would never do that. Probably now they'd be like, oh god, no, we're not going to spend all those resources to do all that in VR. I'm really surprised this is happening.
Because as of right now, it's only on PSVR, and they haven't said a word, as far as I know, about PC VR. I think Sony footed the bill. Like they paid,
probably,
they paid for that,
which is also surprising to me because we'll talk later about reasons why I think PSVR is on its way to its grave.
Yeah,
but
this gets me a lot more interested. Obviously, I mean, Hitman's a game we talked about throughout since we started the podcast. Like we want to play more. I played a decent amount of the first one. I need to play more of that and get into 2 and 3. But so this makes me a lot more interested to jump in there.
Yeah, and I do still have. I really do want to see this in action a little bit more. I mean, what they showed definitely looked cool, but my immediate fear when you're releasing, you could play these full games in VR, but the games were not originally intended for VR. A lot of times that's a big red flag for me that like this might end up feeling kind of tacked on or feel like it doesn't really work completely. Like, I mean, my instant thing was Skyrim, which was just a very, in my opinion, hack job. Like we just threw
I agree with it. Like after I kind of said that, I was like, I had that kind of worry too. But then I read the PS blog things, read some of that. It's like, okay, this is like how in depth it is. Like, okay, they seem to be doing more like even stuff. Like again, it's something that'll be an easy thing to point out. Like, oh, this is fun. Like you using the Move controllers. Like when you have a frying pan, you can hit someone at any angle and use them to deflect bullets.
I just like God. I wonder if how much they had to go in there and like change the code and stuff, or the models and everything.
Because even that, like when you look at Skyrim and RE7, it's like those are already first person. This is we're taking a third person game and putting it in first person, which is not easy. And if you think
like normally you go up there and you press a button and Agent 47 does a canned animation and that's that, but now it has to have a hit detection, so whatever weird things you do with your hands, you gotta be able to read that. It's like that sounds like a lot of work. I'm very, very curious to see how that turns out.
I mean, if they do this well, it's like, there's another killer app for VR right there.
And it's also like, if they do this really well, it's like, okay, you prove that you can go to older games and make them really good in VR. It's like, I wonder what else you could do that. What other games you could do.
I'm very curious what we do more, especially turns out well, like just kind of finding out kind of reasoning behind this. And did Sony pay for this?
And like IO has never really done VR stuff as far as I know. It's like, it's crazy. Yeah, it already would have been a big enough announcement, and I think we would have been really hyped if it was like just Hitman 3 is going to have VR. But the fact that it's like, oh no, retroactively we're going back and it's the whole trilogy. That's just wild.
And I researched, because we were talking about you being able to play Hitman 3 and play the older levels, how that worked. You import them from your the old games into. So you got to have the buy the games. I already have one, and I think 2's on sale for like $12.
So wait, you have to buy 3 to be able to play the other ones in VR?
Maybe. I don't know. I actually don't know that part. I can see it because the way I think 2 worked, and I think they said 3 worked, is you kind of import them, and then you have like it does the little upgrades and that kind of stuff to it. So I imagine it's just kind of the way they do it. Like 3 is the one that technically does it, and you're importing the levels into 3, and that's how they work. Okay. I don't think I'll be able to like put my disc of 1 in and just that maybe do VR.
Right. Yeah. I was wondering because I know you already had 2 and 1. You already had 1 and 2. I wondered if it was just a free update for you on that or not. But
I think the 3 thing makes sense.
Yeah. I mean,
based on the way they describe it, since you're importing the levels.
They put a lot of work into this. It's okay to get money for it, and you're also getting the base. I mean, when you buy Hitman 3, you're getting all 3 games pretty much at this point, right? It's wild, Yeah, again, quietly, IO is just a very like consumer-friendly developer where they're just like, "Yep, buy the new game, you get all the old levels." It's pretty crazy.
Yep. Next one, Braid Anniversary Edition, coming in next year. Don't have much to say about that.
Yep.
The Pathless coming out this year on PS5. Darby.
I thought this was a really good trailer.
Yeah, it's one of the ones where they kind of went in depth about it. Yeah. And like with Crash, and unlike the one we'll talk about later, I think it really worked on selling the game.
Yeah, it stands out a whole lot more than
because we've seen this game in other things before, but it kind of like is like an endless runner thing. Like you were on a set thing, just shooting stuff and all that kind of stuff, jumping, all that kind of stuff. The way at least that's what it looked like to me the last time we saw it in a thing. And this was a good showing to show, it's not that. This is a full open world that you can go in, and you can have all these mobility options and all that kind of stuff. You upgrade your eagle and all that. And here's what the point of the game is supposed to be. You do all this stuff to power up to fight these demon things. And I think this is a really strong showing, and the game just looks good.
I do too. And then I think it's kind of fun to see an open world game that doesn't have to be a crazy, crunchy RPG.
Yeah.
You know, like, because the vibe I got from it is like, yeah, you have these upgrade things, but it's not like, the freaking Witcher or something where it's like crazy quests and like upgrade trees and everything. It looks a lot more about like, there's no map. There's this cool mode where you like,
it's cool. You put a mask on and kind of sonar thing.
Yeah. And it shows like where you've been before. So it's something like, when you travel to a location, you can then see like, okay, I've been there, I haven't been there. I think that's kind of a cooler way to like take away from the HUD and the reliance on the map and everything to do that.
Very minimal HUD because we saw what it actually looks like game.
But I also have a feeling this is going to be a like shorter game too, especially compared to other things.
I think Brandon Jones mentioned he's hoping that it's like an open world game that might be like 10 to 14 hours or something like that.
Or even less. But something like that. Yeah, I am too. Like I said, I mean, that's part of why Ghost of Tsushima is just like, I don't know if I want to go do this big crunchy RPG thing where, the skill trees, all this stuff right now. It's just like, I've done this 1,000 times. I just don't know if I'm in the mood for that right now.
Yeah.
Something like this, it's like, this kind of looks like a cool like sidestep away from that. It still is this open world, and it has the exploration thing that I love. That's like my favorite thing to do in games. But I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more, I mean, kind of like Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild also didn't really have an upgrade tree and everything like that. It was more just the world. You interact with the world, and that's kind of what this looks like to me.
Yeah.
And the mobility stuff looks awesome.
Oh yeah.
You shoot the things and fly up in the air. You're like moving super fast. And the enemy designs look really, really cool. It's like, yeah, I'm definitely surprised.
It was a weird thing where during the PlayStation thing back in June, it was not during the presentation, but I believe this game was in all the press stuff with it. It's like, and we also talked about the paths. It's like, no, you didn't.
That's weird.
Yeah. So, they're pushing this game, so we'll be able to see more updates directly from Sony, probably, which is nice. Help us remember this game.
And holiday this year.
Yeah.
I'll be knee deep in Cyberpunk, but this will be on the back burner, I guess.
Spelunky 2, September 15th.
This is just the wrong podcast. It's a very big deal. Go find the other, you can go. If you're a big Spelunky fan, I'm sorry. I'm sure there's many other gaming podcasts that will be freaking out about it. Yeah. I realize it's a very big deal.
Yes. Especially it coming out next month. Genshin Impact coming out in autumn.
Horny Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the waifus.
Does this do anything for you, Jeff?
It looks neat. Because the last time we saw it, it was literally just that anime girl in red just jumping around during Breath of the Wild stuff. Like, this is literally Breath of the Wild. But in this trailer, I think it did well of showing it's at least a little more than that. Like, you had this big robust sounds like that's not really Breath of the Wild. Like something like that, and all these different characters doing all this weird magic stuff where it's like there's one guy that did ice and he did stuff over the water. It's like, okay, that's obviously a Breath of the Wild thing with Crisis stuff, but all this other doing crazy stuff, like, okay, you're showing why this is at least different from that, and that's just a carbon copy of it, but with anime girls.
My problem was like, oh, it's not a copy of Breath of the Wild. It's a copy of every anime RPG. You know, it's just everything they showed just looked very like generic anime stuff. But that I mean, I'm not saying that the game doesn't look like it could be fun. I mean, I think
it's already out in China. And Daniel Mod said it's pretty good.
I mean, the world looks. Yeah, it looks very Breath of the Wild, which is a compliment. You know, I'm okay with games copying Breath of the Wild. It's a pretty damn good game.
Yeah.
I mean, so does this do anything for you as far as like you potentially buying the game, or are you still kind of like don't know? Like,
if I hear it's amazing, maybe, but it's supposed to come out that's on there so many games. Like the point where no point in even thinking about it.
I assumed that was the answer.
Aeon Must Die, coming out maybe next year.
Yeah, I don't have anything for this.
This is the one with the controversy.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I guess we should briefly talk about the controversy.
Yeah, so pretty much, like, there are no developers because they all quit because they were treated shitty and not being paid and reasons people should leave their job.
Yep, and then, so apparently, like... This was like given the trailer and assets they already made was just like given to some other studio, just like put this out and stuff. So it's like
and now it's like the publisher put out a statement, and I imagine this might be the last time we see something from Sony.
Yep,
or from Sony about this game.
It sounded like Sony just was not aware.
Yeah, or they made this deal before that and just have it before this stuff happened because they happened back in June, so that's not.
Yeah. It's not good. Treat your workers better, you know?
Yep. Mutationum. I don't know. The last of the Chinese games, this one didn't do anything for me personally. Some of the graphic stuff looked pretty cool, but...
Some of it looked cool, but also some of it, like... I think some of the backgrounds look cool. I didn't really like the model of the girl necessarily.
It kind of clashed.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just kind of... It's what I've been saying all summer long. Everyone is doing cyberpunk now.
Yeah.
That's the new like medieval fantasy. That is the thing that just everyone is doing.
You know what everyone else is also doing? Talking about Bugsnax.
Everyone's talking about Bugsnax. You can't stop talking about Bugsnax.
Can't do it.
What do you think about Bugsnax the game instead of Bugsnax the song?
I didn't expect it to be first person.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily expect that either. Yeah.
So I'm curious. Like, I don't think we saw your character actually eat. So I wonder if you actually eat and transform. Like the character,
maybe everyone else just does.
Yeah, you're just feeding the villagers to make them your own grotesque creations.
That would be a twist. I think everyone would assume that you were eating.
I like the way the marketing is going for this game because just like, especially with the song, just the first trailer, it's like striking. Obviously, people won't talk about it, and then like the second showing, they immediately start like it's the end of the trailer. It's like, wait, what's going on? And then it's like the news. The reporter angle is like, okay, there's a little more here to the story, which is
I certainly wasn't expecting the reporter angle.
Yeah, and you go in and showing the game actually being played, how you're capturing them and all that kind of stuff, and kind of the way you might be interacting with character, because one of the girls like, figure out what my favorite food is, don't look at the carrot behind me. And they show the little slinking carrot.
I legitimately think this game could be a whole lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that, like you said, like you're saying, they're going about this the right way. Like the marketing.
One thing I was like, okay, that's neat. It's when you're about to, I think the character's about to like go down a ladder or jump down something, and you see like a pizza dragon in the sky. It's like, okay, that's dope.
And I can see the humor just be the self-awareness and everything of this game being like really, really good. I hope that this game is like a PS Plus game or something. Like that would be really cool. But
I don't know if it'll be at a launch.
Yeah, probably not.
Down the line for sure.
Yeah,
but I'm very curious. Well, it sounds like, if I'm not mistaken, like we have some casual, or I don't mean to speak for you, I guess, casual interest in this game, but it sounds like Jacob's a lot more into it than us, that we might get some impressions from him.
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
And I mean, it's definitely a game. I reserve the right to end up buying this game at launch potentially if it's like. I'm very into, you know, it's like it looks like a fun game. It also depends on price, you know, and what else is going on.
And obviously, Sony's, especially since it's kind of just become a kind of fan favorite. Like, we'll continue seeing this. Like, I expect to see about every Sony event.
It has been cool seeing the developers. Like, we had no clue We never expected to get this popular. With
we never
song.
Expected that Jeff Keighley would be like, yo, you want to perform the song?
You got KKB there.
Yeah.
You got to.
The only other VR game, Star Wars Vader Immortal, coming out August 25th. This game looks neat. You get to be a little Jedi. But it sounds like the story of it is not very good because Brandon Jones has played the game on PC.
Yeah, it didn't do a ton for me, but I definitely understand. You know, it was cute.
Yeah. Control, the expansion to, AWE, I think it's called. Alan Wake expansion, I guess is what it stands for.
Yeah, so it's like a lot more like they hinted with the Alan Wake being in the same universe and all of that. Like I never expected to have like.
I think they felt like they confirmed it at some point. People kind of expected.
That's actually kind of sad. Or they confirmed that they were in the same universe. I just didn't think we were going to get this overt. I didn't think it was.
I feel like they announced, but I might be completely wrong.
They probably did. They probably did.
Well, also something. I guess news. They said they're working on their next game, and it will be in the Control Alan Wake universe. It just might not be with those Jesse and Alan.
Every game they make is going to be in the same gigantic
Sure,
universe.
why not?
It's like,
based on what little I know that universe, for what I do know, you can do a bunch of crazy shit and do whatever you want.
Even within just Control itself, it's like, you can justify some wacky.
That's cool.
Crazy
People were very excited for that, especially with the Alan Wake.
Yeah,
being involved.
I'm very interested. Like I don't have the big urge to go play this, even though I did enjoy Control overall, but there was just some things I didn't enjoy about it, and I don't know. I just don't know if I want to dip back in the well, but we'll see. I'm sure Jacob will play it, so I'll probably go off of Jacob's lead. If Jacob's like, you really need to play this, then okay. Yeah.
That make you want to play Alan Wake?
But then it makes me like, if they try to be like, oh well, they've already beat Control, so we have to make the combat even harder than the end of Control. Yeah. I'm gonna be like, oh no. No. Don't get me wrong. It's not just like, I'm just too bad at Control. It's like, no, the design at the end of Control is just fucking terrible. It's just very bad game design, and I don't know,
Auto chess. I didn't really care for that trailer. I was very confused.
I'm sure auto chess would probably be. I looked at League of Legends for years of my life, and I'm like, oh, what's this bullshit? I don't understand anything that's going on. And now I've played like freaking 40 hours in like 2 weeks. I'm sure auto chess, and there's a League of Legends auto chess game. I'm sure that would be another thing like that. But it's definitely one of those when you look at it, it's like, yep, those are colors. There's a bunch of stuff on the screen. I don't know what's going on.
We're going to combine your newfound love for League of Legends and my love of Pokemon to become a Pokemon Unite channel.
I yesterday went back and looked at the Pokemon Unite trailer. It's the most hyped I've ever been for a Pokemon game.
Nice.
I'm sure that's a hot take. It's like, I looked at it, I was like, this legitimately looks like, because it looks a lot simpler than League, but I was like, we could definitely have some fun with this, So
here's the interesting thing. I feel like this is the first time I actually heard someone who actually has played League in any meaningful capacity actually say impressions of the trailer.
Yeah, it was so wild. I went back and watched it. It's like, I remember seeing this stuff the first time, but it means so much. It's so much different now. It's crazy.
Well, even now, for the little I played, I've kind of thinking back, I was like, okay, I see where this is going. Like, I'm interested in playing with you guys now.
You should go back and watch the trailer again, because it is weird because, like, and I know, sorry, Pokemon Unite tangent, didn't expect to be here, but like the point system is not like taking the enemy base like in League of Legends. It's like there's a bunch of points on the side, and you're getting Pokemon from the like jungle area and bringing it to those points.
That's right.
That's how you score points or whatever. So like I think that's a little bit of a weaker like objective to pull people together than League has, but it's simpler, which is probably what you want in a Pokemon thing. So
it could just be one mode.
Yeah. But the whole aspect of like in League, you're like leveling up your character.
Leveling up and evolving Pokemon.
The fact that like that's just perfect.
Yeah.
That is perfect. Having the Pokemon thing with
and
that.
Gengar.
But I mean, because the leveling up in League is cool, but like that makes it, the fact that you're leveling up and actually evolving your Pokemon is just like, I think that's such a like slam dunk idea. That's just like really cool.
We went from auto chess to Pokemon. Okay. Let's see where tangent we can go with the pedestrian. Looks neat.
Which one was this?
It's the little sign person. You may not have watched this one.
I might not have watched.
Then we can move on. It looked neat. It's something like I can see myself enjoying this game, but probably will never touch. Hood, Outlaws and Legends, coming out next year on PS5. This did absolutely nothing for me. It's the most generic thing. I'm like, of course they're showing this game. This kind of game. Okay. Then the other PS5 game they announced, Tim, coming out next year on PS5, Xbox One, and Switch. Weirdly enough, based on what I saw, it's coming out on Switch, but not current gen.
Huh. I mean, if you're going to prioritize one.
Yeah.
But that is strange.
I'm glad to see it here. I'm glad it's getting some spotlight, and it's like, okay, it's coming to consoles next year. They're still on that plan, and get people's eyes on it, because Tim is a fun game. And
Sony has a Pokemon game.
And so does Xbox now.
Yeah,
and then Switch will have another one. Like, here's the thing. A part of the reason I'm excited, because again, Tim is a fun game. I'm excited to see what they do from here. But I want companies to not be afraid to go into this genre. I want someone, as long as the game's good, to succeed, so people aren't scared.
Yeah, it's weird how some genres just feel like they're off limits, but then it's like Battle Royale. Everyone's like, go nuts, copy it for days, do it left and right. But for some reason, something like Pokemon, it's like, oh no, that's Pokemon. It's like, just fucking do it. If you're making a good game, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess for people who don't really know for Tim and, it's Pokemon, Tim does do some things, I won't go into the details here, that, Pokemon fans have had problems with the Pokemon series, and Tim does that to kind of levy that. Sort of like it being an MMO and just being harder and having more of an actual story.
Yeah.
So, again, for my time with Tim, even though it was an MMO, it can work perfectly based on what I played as a single-player game.
Strap in, get ready, because we have 50 minutes of Godfall discussion coming your way right now.
You fucking end with 10 minutes of Godfall. God damn. That was the biggest bummer. Here's the thing. I was like, we were getting there. It's like, okay, we have time for maybe a couple more things. Like, before we go, take a good look at Godfall. I'm like, what the no.
I think it was Jeff Grubb said, I woke up this morning wishing I knew too much about Godfall, and sometimes it just breaks your way. That game couldn't look more uninteresting to me. I would say that's just me, but I've yet to see a single person really say anything positive about Godfall. I really feel like this is going to be like an anthem that just it's like, oh, remember Godfall at the beginning of the PS5 launch? That was weird, right?
Yeah. It might sell decently well out the gate just because it is a launch game. But yeah,
I don't think that player base is gonna stick around. That's just my humble prediction.
Time to move on to peripherals. Ready to talk about that sweet Peripherals.
Sweet Peripherals.
This information comes from Isabel Tomatis from the PlayStation blog. This next part is just a little. I just copy and pasted a couple sentences from there, just taking them outside and read the whole thing. The DualShock 4 wireless controller and PlayStation officially licensed third-party gamepad controllers will work with supported PS4 games. Both the PS Move motion controllers and the PlayStation VR aim controller will work with supported PSVR games on PS5. Here, they're just doing a section of frequently asked questions. The question, will DualShock 4 work with PS5 games? Answer is no. We believe that PS5 games should take advantage of the new capabilities and features we're bringing to the platform, including the features of DualSense wireless controller. And another question is the PlayStation camera for PS4 compatible with PS5? Yes. PlayStation camera will work with PS5 for playing supported PSVR games. It will require a PlayStation camera adapter that will be provided at no additional cost to PlayStation VR users. More details on how to get the adapter will be announced at a later date.
Okay, I'll be honest. I have only heard this news on podcasts, and I think I misunderstood. So you can actually use the DualShock 4 on the PS5 to play PS4 games.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I thought you couldn't even do that. I thought you had to have a PS4 just didn't even work on the PS5 whatsoever. But okay. Does
that change your opinion on things?
Quite a bit, actually, because that was actually the biggest thing I would have been mad about. I still think it's kind of sucks, and especially when you compare it to Xbox, is just like letting everything go. Because like the reasoning for this and everything is that, you know, the haptic feedback, all this other stuff. I think we've been around games long enough to know that that's going to be something that like Naughty Dog, Insomniac, and like Sucker Punch or whatever will do a few little things with, but no third party is going to really touch it. It's just going to kind of fade away into.
It's going to be Sony's first party studios messing around with it a little bit to varying degrees. If Meteor Molecule makes a new game, it will be all about that stuff. But in a couple third parties that have direct ties to Sony,
you'll like pretty much forget that that's a thing very quickly. And because third parties just makes no sense because Xbox doesn't have that stuff. Yeah. So it's like you're not going to, or at least there's no way you're going to make it integral to the game when only one platform can do that and everything. And Sony will kind of force their studios to do some things with it. But even, I mean, like, you know, Last of Us Part 2 has you shake the thing to turn your light when your flashlight runs out of batteries. That's it. As far as like you still using that motion control, and even that, you could take that out of the game and it would not affect the game whatsoever. It's like that's the level of thing that you get from this. So holding, like, you know, when we go to the PS5 to play, and I know this is a PS4 game, but you know, a similar type of game to like Gang Beasts, some other random thing like that. It's like, what? Like, you know, why does it matter? It's like there's definitely going to be games on the PS5. There are PS5 games that are not using those DualSense capabilities whatsoever, like party games and everything. And with controllers being so fucking expensive, it just would make it would be a lot better if you know, because I'm going to use my DualSense when I'm playing single player. Obviously, it's the better new controller. But like, if I could hand off my DualSense,
it'll be like for when like we play something like Games or whatever PS5 equivalent is. When our friends come over, we don't have to be like, "Hey guys, bring your controllers."
Right.
We can be like, "Okay, we're good here."
Yeah. And I mean, this is one of those things. I don't think that this is like the end of the freaking world.
I'm going to be honest. I think people got a little too mad about.
Yeah, it's not something I'm like completely. I mean, it's something that's happened every generation. It's just those walls are starting to fall down. Xbox is doing this or whatever. I don't think it's the end of the freaking world. And I kind of understand Sony wanting to leave the door open for people to innovate with this, and for it because. If developers just think, well, everyone's just playing DualShock 4s anyway, so we can't, you know, I kind of get it.
It's a weird thing where I wonder part of the reasoning is like, you know, like you said, a lot of third parties will not, but then it's going to be a weird thing of people wondering like, why won't my PS4 controller work with this game but not this game kind of thing. It's like, okay, we're just going to take away that confusion. Just
I mean, obviously the real reason they want you to buy more DualSense. But it's not that big of a deal. Especially since I thought it was you had like they just didn't work with the console whatsoever. So I thought even if you were playing PS4 games, you had to have DualSenses, which would be stupid. So yeah, I think it's kind of lame, but in comparison to a lot of other things, it's like not too worked up about it. But I will say we didn't talk about the PlayStation camera adapter.
Oh yeah.
I personally think that is a pretty good indication that PSVR is on life support, because like, yes, you can play PSVR on PS5, but you have to have a special adapter that is not being shipped with a console. You have to specifically go ask for it. I don't know. To me, that signifies this is not a very big important thing.
That's because the PSVR 2 is going to be wireless and doesn't need the camera.
That is possible.
I'm joking. That's just something that just popped in my head. Yeah. That'd be the dream.
Are you generally with me? You think that's pretty bad sign?
Well, here's another reason I'm with you. I got a little excited when they were announced the state of play and like, we're showing VR games, and there was two, and one of them's just a mode. So yeah, I had hope for something. I was hoping for something from Sony first party in VR there. I mean, I know they said no first party. It's like I kind of had some hope, like maybe it's there to show, okay, they're still doing this. They're not. So I'm generally with you.
Yeah.
I am clear. I am definitely going with the like down the line. I'll get another VR headset, and it will be a PC one, probably the Quest. Okay, Dari. let's talk about some DC. We're going to talk about Marvel later. We're going to talk about some DC right now. Darby, it finally happened. I can't believe Will's not here to talk about it. We finally got the Rocksteady game official announcement in a fucking tweet.
We did.
The fuckers announced the game. They're making a Suicide Squad game in a tweet, and they did say, you know, they're going to show more. August 22nd at DC Fandom, but like people are kind of saying like Jesus Ryan and stuff. Don't expect too much there, and I have no reason not to believe these people. So it makes me think, why announce this in a tweet if you may be doing nothing more than tease it at DC Fandom?
How about that Warner Brothers marketing team?
The Warner Brothers marketing team for video games is terrible. Mortal Kombat is good, but I'm going to take a guess and say that's more NetherRealm.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, the NetherRealm is a well-oiled machine. They do what they want.
The DC ones have been terrible.
But terrible marketing and reveals and everything aside, what is your thought about Rocksteady made Suicide Squad? What is some sort of suicide? What do you think about the game, the video game?
It's hard to say, like, about the game. We'll have to wait and see what kind of game it actually is. But as far as making a Suicide Squad game, I'm not as doom and gloom about it as other people, like, just upset about it. Guys, there's just one bad movie. Suicide Squad, as just in general, is fine. Yeah. And I'm curious where they go with it, because a leaked name of it was Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, and that poster the poster or whatever thing they did definitely shows that might be a case, because you have the Suicide Squad X over Superman.
Yeah.
And people notice that he has little purple eyes that maybe might be like,
looks evil Superman.
Yeah, it might be like mind controlled or something like that. So that could be interesting.
People are saying Bizarro.
Or potentially Bizarro. So that could be an interesting thing. I know some people are kind of upset, bummed that potentially, you know, you'll be killing the good guys. Some people just having these games problem playing against the bad guys. Like, you guys do you, but you know,
I'm sure there's going to be a twist to it. You know, it's not going to be just kill the Justice League and it's like.
I can't remember who said it.
Bad guys did the day.
Remember,
come on, guys.
Someone mentioned, like, maybe it might have been Greg Miller, talking about potentially, especially if they're under control, you free them and they join you, like. The Justice League members join you.
I have a feeling they don't join you and be controllable. Just because most of gets to be a lot of character. I don't know. It depends on what kind of game it is, but
it depends.
But I'm just like, I mean, come on, grow up a little bit. Like, give them some time. It's not. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I guess if we get out there and it really is like bad guys are truly evil and the truly evil guys win the day, and that's the end of the game. And it's like, okay, then I can see the complaints, but it's like, come on, guy, you know.
And what the Suicide Squad is, you know, obviously you watch the movie. Suicide Squad are like pretty much prisoners of the government.
Yeah, that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna like,
a little more anti-hero more thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna be like against. But you can even see in the damn poster, it's an evil Superman. The whole thing is gonna be the Justice League are corrupt, like corrupted by some like evil power, and that you're like fighting them, and you end up like taking that away, like taking the mind control away. That's what it's gonna be.
See, that thing I'm okay with. The thing that scares me about this game is the rumor is it's gonna be a game of service game. And all my fears that end up coming true about Avengers is, you know, those fears are there for this game until we actually see it.
I mean, I think it's a decent possibility because it's like when you have a big ensemble cast like that, it does kind of just naturally work for the games of service type thing. And it gets kind of weird if you're playing single player, but there's like all these different characters, you know. But it would be really fucking bizarre if both DC and Marvel had this type of game at the same time.
I see a world where they're pretty much the exact same things, like with the exact same structure and all that.
They really, really good.
Like, I feel like that's a very likely, like the most likely scenario.
I agree with you.
So that's kind of a bummer. I want to see more about it. I trust Rocksteady, but then again, I guess I would have said I trusted Crystal Dynamics as far as that goes. So we will see about all that. But
very soon.
Yes, very soon. And hopefully we see that damn Batman game.
But also it sounds like we could get to August 22nd, see a trailer, and still not know what the game is like at all, you know?
I swear to God. So also around this time, they went full blown with DC fandom stuff like, we should have guests left and right. Woo! Jeff Keighley's there. But also in the guest list, some people point out Ed Boon is going to be there. And people are wondering if that might be potentially for an Injustice League announcement.
Be interesting.
Or it could be talking about Injustice in general. Also, something potentially they announced recently they're doing starting a new kind of Injustice comic. So I don't know if they could just be kind of related to that. That's probably the likely scenario. But let me dream. Damn it.
Let Jeff dream.
Oh, let me dream. But something I will not be able to do is do XCloud on iOS. So
that's a bummer, Jeff.
Yeah, we got some XCloud information. We got a release date. It's going to be on Game Pass Ultimate on September 15th, so pretty dang soon. But it has been confirmed pretty much that it's not going to be having an iOS because Apple sucks.
Yep.
There were questions about why that wasn't happening and all that, and there were some questions about it when Stadia announced they're launching on stuff like iOS was not on there either. It's like, what's the deal, man? And yeah, it's pretty much because of Apple's weird terms of service that's just fucking dumb.
Yeah, it seems like Apple's done this with a lot of different things that just can't go on Apple, even though they work on it and there's no other reason. But like Apple strong arms them out of there because they want, probably because Apple is developing their own super shitty game streaming thing that will be like not nearly the same thing, but they want you to use that instead.
Is Apple Arcade streaming?
It might be that legitimately, Jeff. It could be that stupid.
No.
We don't want another gaming service.
No, Apple Arcade is legitimately, I think, the reason. I just can't remember it's the streaming part.
How fucking dumb is that?
Oh, it's very dumb, and I hate it.
I mean, this is like, I don't really care about Apple. Like, I'm not like strong, like Android for life and everything, but like it's shit like this that's like, no, I'm never going to switch to Apple because like at least Android's like, sure, do whatever the fuck you want. Apple's like, no, we're going to like restrict you from this, restrict you from that. I think like they tried to like restrict Netflix at first, and Netflix just became like, you can't restrict Netflix. Everyone's going to abandon your service if you don't have Netflix. Yeah. And I hope XCloud gets to that point. I hope XCloud gets so popular that Apple like can't ignore it anymore. But that's just so obnoxious.
Looking forward to this. I can't even freaking try it out on my phone.
This is really stupid. It's just, I don't know. I don't like that company. So I'm not a big fan of that company for many, many reasons. This is the least among them. But.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hot take. So Dari, we'll be testing XCloud on your phone.
Yes,
through my account. Hope you're okay with that.
We'll do it. We'll play. Me and Master Chief be hanging out.
But I'll test out XCloud on my laptop at the very least.
Yes.
Yep. So
yeah,
we will have those impressions around mid-September-ish, hopefully.
We'll become one with the cloud.
Yes. Ready for the sales time, Derby?
And it's Nintendo sales. That's the best kind.
Yeah, because they go deep into this. I got this information from Adam Bankhurst from IGN. I don't feel like they updated as much with this as far as going through it, or Nintendo in general, it seems like, where people talking about it, but I got the main highlights from it. So we will talk about those. Nintendo's net profit year-on-year has increased by 500%.
Damn.
That's a pretty big number.
Pretty big number. Thanks, Tom.
Yep. Thank you, Tommy boy. So Switch has now sold over 61.44 million, right under the NES's 61.91 million. It's past it.
It's past it.
Because just say this every time I got there. All these sales are by the end of June, so they've had over a month more of sales. So now the Switch is its second highest selling home console.
That's crazy.
Only under the Wii. There are other handhelds over it, but
it's wild. I know we talk about it all the time, but it's still one of those when the Switch was first coming out. It's like the possibilities felt completely open. This thing could crash and burn or completely take off, and to think that this short of time afterwards crossed 60 million units is just impressive.
You know what also was impressive, Darby?
Very fucking impressive.
Animal Crossing New Horizons has sold 22 million in just over 3 months.
See, if you had asked me like about how much do I think Animal Crossing had sold, I would have said 20 million. But still, looking at the number, even though it's what I expected, doesn't make it any less bananas. It's like 22 million in 3 months.
So it's now the Switch's second best-selling game behind Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is 26.74 million. But let's go back to Animal Crossing.
That is wild. It just instantly become the number 2 best-selling Nintendo game.
Probably the best one by next time.
Like, it beat Pokemon. Animal Crossing is bigger than Pokemon at this point. That's wild. It's like incredible.
It was an interesting Resetera thread I was reading kind of throughout work. Didn't read too much of it because we were busy. But it's like, so in ranking wise, where is Animal Crossing on Nintendo's most important IPs? It's up there.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously Pokemon overall beats it by a lot in that, because Pokemon has so many other things.
Top 4
going on.
easy.
Like,
the order you can maybe debate: Mario, Pokemon, Zelda, Animal Crossing. It's those 4.
My mind was trying to argue with you on Zelda because it doesn't sell as much as you think it does, but I can't think of a one.
Zelda partly is like
marketing and everything,
and merchandise. Zelda sells a lot more than about any gaming thing for the most part.
Zelda is an icon, even if its sales aren't as much as
I feel like the merchandise stuff makes up like the difference between the.
Yeah, I mean, I figured, I just like thought about it. I was like, is there anything else? Like, no, there's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I was saying, I'm not necessarily saying all those 4 are necessarily close, but those are the top 4, I think, without question. Unless you want to get into like Mario Kart, it's separate. Well, let's take this with Mario and all.
And Animal Crossing has just barreled its way into that top spot. It's crazy.
They are going to boost the amount of Animal Crossing merchandise out there for sure. They're probably going to do a lot more crazy things because Animal Crossing has always been big, but this is definitely a breakout. I'm sure they didn't even see coming.
I mean, the sheer amount of people I think that bought Switches for Animal Crossing.
Derby, you want something else interesting? I'm just going to assume it's already had enough to do this. Animal Crossing New Horizons is now the second best-selling game in Japan of all time.
What?
So it's the chart I saw has it at 3rd, but it was only 20,000 below Pokemon Gold and Silver. I'm going to assume it's already beaten it, or it's going to shortly.
Shit. What is the number 1?
Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue.
Wow.
So it is the top-selling single SKU game in Japan of all time.
I'm still surprised that's not like Tetris or something being the number 1.
Tetris is even on this. Oh, wait, Tetris is. It's 19th on this list.
That's surprising to me.
Yeah, it recently Animal Crossing beat the original Super Mario Bros.
Good God.
Yeah,
that game's freaking juggernaut. That's insanity.
Yeah. It could be the top-selling Japan game at some point. It's 7 million in Japan against 10 million for Pokemon.
I mean,
I mean, maybe not anytime soon necessarily, but at some point, if it continues with the legs.
I mean, you think, 7 million in Japan alone is insanity.
Obviously, the second best-selling game of all time in Japan.
It's like I didn't know anything could sell that much in Japan.
Yeah,
I just didn't know that there was that many people who played games.
Yeah, so Nintendo is probably very happy.
And obviously, I think the pandemic definitely helped a whole lot as far as
I think people overstate how much it helped.
But yeah, no, this game was going to be very, very big regardless.
Overall, the sales numbers would probably lifetime be the same. I think it just jump started it.
I'm sorry to call him out. Barrett Courtney from Kind of Funny made the I love you Barrett, but made the absolutely idiotic prediction that Doom Eternal would beat Animal Crossing, and then people were like making fun of him for it, and he was like, "Listen, we never know what would have happened if there wasn't a pandemic. We never know." It's like, Barrett, we fucking know it was not gonna beat Animal Crossing.
I saw like I think Andy bring it up recently, and he responded like, "Yeah, that was just dumb." I think he can't argue that. Like, I don't know the numbers, but I imagine Animal Crossing at least 4 times as much as Doom.
And like pandemic or no, it was never gonna. Yeah,
no. So let's move on. Animal Crossing continues to be a juggernaut. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate 19.99 million, over the 20 million mark. I assume by now. Huge.
Yep.
Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, 18.6 million.
Which, I mean, it's been very interesting to see Breath of the Wild. Like, Mario Odyssey passed it, but then slowly Breath of the Wild kept coming back up until it passed Mario again, which was very interesting to me.
Yeah, because Mario definitely had a bigger start, like just initial things, but Zelda's had the bigger legs.
Which is very interesting to me. I guess Zelda is just like...
Zelda's the game everyone talks about, so when you get the Switch, you get the game.
I mean, that's what I think. When people buy Switches, they must be buying Zelda
and
very
Animal
often.
Now.
Well, more Animal Crossing than Zelda, but I'm just,
The three games you get with your Switch are Zelda, Mario Kart, and Animal Crossing.
Yep.
Maybe Smash. Ring Fit Adventure is now over 4 million.
And it would be way more than that if it wasn't.
So I think a not crazy hot take is if they decide on the second Fighters Pass a little later, Ring Fit Adventure would definitely be in the pass. And depending how they do it, I think they are shoo-in for next Smash.
Yeah.
Depending how they do the roster. Who knows?
Also, Ring Fit 2 and or new content for Ring Fit is 100% being made right now.
Yeah, I assume they are very happy. Xenoblade, 1.32 million.
I think that's good for Xenoblade.
I think that's very good.
Very good
it's already
Xenoblade.
outsold the original.
I would think so.
All the other versions of Xenoblade. And
for Xenoblade,
it has a better start than Xenoblade 2. I'm curious to see. I don't know if it'll have the legs of Xenoblade 2, so it may not be the best. This version may not be the best-selling Xenoblade game, just by itself. But I think this is really good for it.
Even just crossing the million, I think, for such a niche.
And this was only a little over a month for this. I can imagine Nintendo is happy about these sales.
I would think so.
Yep. Clubhouse Games, 1.03 million.
That's pretty surprising to me, too. I was surprised by how many people were actually talking about that game when it just seemed like one of those that would be like, oh, yep, just came and went. Just because it was in a Nintendo Direct.
Yep. Kind of like a little PlayStation stuff, but not as exciting because they don't give us crazy detailed numbers.
Yeah, screw you, PlayStation.
Seriously, come on. Give us our podcast fuel. The biggest Q1 in PlayStation history, new records in revenue, profit, and software sales. 74% of sales were digital. That's obviously a record. And PS4s have now sold 112.3 million.
I'm sure a lot of those digital were pandemic. I mean, there was two different games that wouldn't have gotten digital normally, Last of Us and Final Fantasy, that I got digital because of them. So. Yep.
That's a quick thing. Maybe I should have done a Titan code, but other news. It didn't come up in the other thing, so let's get to it. Don't normally talk about these necessarily this series, but we're going to talk here because I want to give a shout out to it. Street Fighter V Season 5 details have been announced, and they announced some new characters. Dan Hibiki, which I was very surprised as someone who just casually follows Street Fighter V who's not already in.
That's what I've seen everyone says.
He's not, Rose, Oro, who is an old man whose whole thing is he's holding a turtle and he will not let it fall. So all of his animations, he has to have the turtle upright.
That's fantastic. He's my main for this game that I don't play.
Also, in the I think his first thing, if you in the first game he appeared in, you can see his penis.
Oh,
old man penis.
Scandalous. Jeez.
Let's see.
I think I've seen that man before.
Yeah.
I was looking at this man. Oh God.
Yeah, that's the art.
That's the turtle. Very nice.
And also very exciting. They announced Akira Kazama from Rival Schools will be playable.
It's the first ever guest character for Street Fighter, right?
Yep. And I'm not confident in my Street Fighter knowledge say ever.
It's just
the first one is 5.
Yeah.
But that's very exciting. People are excited to see Rival Schools even mentioned, but in a Capcom official stream. So further, and there's a fifth fighter in this. They're going to announce that way later. So the reason I kind of wanted to highlight this is just kind of potential feeling good about the Capcom fighting division, because people were kind of worried for a little bit there. Just the way they did this presentation, the way they talked and everything. It made me feel good as someone who doesn't play their games, and just for instance, people who do like their games, just the way they talked and these are the characters they picked and all that, and they gave a complete roadmap. The last character's not even coming out till like fall/winter 2021. So it's going on a while. And just talking about like with Dan, they're gonna have a new gameplay mechanic, whatever the hell that is. So that's huge, and just kind of stuff like that. Oh, just the way they gave the presentation makes you feel good about where they're heading compared to where they have been.
That's what I've heard from
everyone. And hopefully that means another actual like appealing Marvel vs. Capcom. I don't want to say good because the actual combat of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is actually good.
Yeah.
Just everything surrounding it is not.
I think Marvel is kind of the biggest issue.
Yeah.
I think Gamrod brought it up. I would almost rather them say like, hey, we're making a Sega versus Capcom or something like that, because it's just, I think working with Marvel and their rights and everything is what is part of what kills.
Or even like, even if you don't want to necessarily like, if you're tired of doing another company, or I mean Sega versus Capcom would be cool.
Yeah, Capcom Fighter would be
just a big Capcom crossover fighting game. People
more
than eat
enough.
That up.
They have more than enough characters.
I would probably eat that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was nice. Pikmin 3 Deluxe was announced for the Switch coming out October 30th. Nintendo finally spoke, and they also just delisted Pikmin 3 from the Wii U eShop. Moving on. I'm not joking.
It's so funny to me because it's like, okay, so you like that can, it gives you like the bad press and everything of the fact that like you're charging $60 for this re-release of it, and you took the cheaper older version from the previous hardware away, so you took the cheaper option away and made people pay $60. And also, but how much money could you possibly be saving? How many people were actually going to go back to the Wii U who have not bought Pikmin 3 yet and be like, oh, now 2020, that's the year where I'm going to be.
Oh, they're announcing the Switch version. I think it's time for me to go get it on Wii U.
I'm like, this, it just seems like such a dumb, like, this is just Nintendo like weirdness and kind of stupidity just exemplified, where it's like, oh no, we got it, like we can't let them go buy the like cheaper version. It's like, Nintendo, that's gonna be 3 people. There's like 3 people that would do that. Just leave it the fuck up. Who cares? Yeah. Like I just, it makes no sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
It's just so like, and the same thing with freaking Donkey Kong Country, and they're like, but we added funky mode. It's like literally just like a terrible like easy mode that just breaks the game.
Hey,
and like,
Funky Kong's too cool.
$60. It's like, I love Nintendo, but I also hate them sometimes. They just make no sense a lot of times.
What's also funny about this announcement, I saw someone point out, is this was announced the day before the financial meeting. So they probably literally announced this just to have a game on their docket with a date.
That's why I was just, oh shit.
Yeah. So we could have a whole conversation on the release thing, but we're not going to do that right now. Yeah. We can save that for another time. Final Fantasy VII Remake has sold 5 million copies. Highest selling digital title for Square Enix on the PS4. I don't think that's too surprising. Just because pandemics and more people buy. I think there was 2 million that was bought on there.
Hype. Go play that game.
Yep. Very good game. Virtual BlizzCon is happening in early 2021, Blizzard announced. That's when we will see Overwatch 2, or at least by then.
Yeah. Hopefully before, but we'll see. It's been a rough time for Blizzard and Overwatch for many reasons, and now they're like, employees are revolting because they're not paid well.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother thing. Let's move on.
Sorry, we're not going to okay, maybe this conversation is not as bad as employee rights and all that kind of shit. But
no, certainly not.
Yeah. Didn't want to make it sound like it was my jokes.
No, it's fine.
And dumb transitions.
Hey, we found a way to bring down the tension of the Spider-Man conversation by showing that, hey, it's still just video games. So everything that we're about to get really mad about, understand that this is not the biggest thing going on.
We might be acting more angry just for the content. Not really.
Yeah, we really played up.
Yep. So yeah, we talked about this. We have a video where we talked about our fresh takes a little more information coming up there. We want to have, talk about Spider-Man and Avengers a little more and go to more little broader things with all this stuff.
Yeah. So
see where it
definitely
goes.
go watch that video. 'Cause I think that might be more specifically about this specific thing. Here we might go a little more broad about what I think this whole situation has meant, or has shown. So, yeah. So what's our new information, Jeff?
Well, more information is Crystal Dynamics head, studio director, whatever, did an interview statement thing, and it was a bunch of word salad.
Yeah.
And people are, and even me you can argue me to a point for sure, just taking what they want out of the...
It was one of those statements that doesn't make any declarative things, and they just kind of hope that everyone hears what they want to hear out of it and moves on. It definitely seemed like some deflecting, and they were talked about like Sony and Marvel's relationship allowed this to happen and everything.
Special relationship, and I think rights were technically said in there, but in a weird way. So it's it's one of those things. Like if they mention rights, I don't think it's necessarily Sony has the rights to it, because if so, and they were saying he was said in a more declarative, like clear way, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was very deflecting. I think
what I'm getting at is there could still be something, but I don't think we get that from that just because of the way.
I think he was limited. The person who was talking was very limited in what they could say from Sony and from their own end. So they were just kind of like it was more like it was like direct your hate mail at Sony, not us. And I'm still not completely. I directed it both. I mean, don't direct your death threats, but I'm mad at both.
So here's the thing: I'm not going to read the quote. Maybe I should. I don't know. But one of the statements or a part of that was very reminiscent of the. Oh, you don't have infinite. You don't have internet. Do I have the console for you?
Because he said, like, for anyone who wants to play
Spider-Man, you have the option on the PS4/5.
It's like kind of hell. What do you mean? You tell us, oh, just go buy the $400 console.
That was very reminiscent of that. Those weren't good statements at all.
Oh, come on, dude. Come the freak on. Yeah, and this is, I don't know, this whole situation, and I mean, to be 100% clear, this is a game that me and Jeff both think looks pretty bad, and neither of us have really any interest whatsoever in playing it. So, to be perfectly clear, everything that we're kind of mad about here is not like a personal thing that I'm mad that I'm not going to be able to play this. I'm kind of like,
also, even if we were interested in it, Spider-Man being on the console would be playing on, so it's not like,
But as just someone who enjoys like covering the game industry or whatever, it sucks. This blows, and what is bothering me the most is just the conversation around it. I think has kind of revealed some pretty intense biases or however you say that, some intense bias from not only just fans, which we've seen all the console war garbage that happens. We know I hate it so much, it's so bad. We knew that existed with some fans and everything, but I think I've seen it a lot in gaming media and a lot of gaming industry people that I've seen that prevalence of this isn't anti-consumer. This is pro-PlayStation consumer. PlayStation is doing what's best for their consumers. And like that logic is just so flawed to me and just so easily torn down, because I mean, in this situation, PlayStation consumers are getting no added benefit. They're just getting something they would have gotten anyway. This does nothing but take away from other people. And I've seen just way too many industry people either say that argument that I think just holds no water, or say like, Sony's gonna, of course Sony's gonna do this because like this will make people buy things on their platform or whatever, and they're basically saying like, oh, you can't complain about it because like, yeah, of course they're gonna do it.
It makes them money
because it makes them money. I'm like, well, yeah, no shit, it makes them money because it's taking content away from other platforms. It's like, isn't that a bad thing for me? Like, and it just gets back to my core thing that I come back to over and over again, is that like, why are you defending corporations that you are like, their bottom line means nothing to you. Like, you do not get paid by Sony. You don't have to defend their situation, their like decisions, even when they go against the consumer. You know what I mean?
But Darby, you can use that money that fund PlayStation exclusives and shit. Getting some extra Avengers buys is not going to change the games they make.
Sony is fine.
Yeah,
Sony is fine.
So yeah, nothing since our conversation has maybe changed how I generally feel about that. It's all shitty and all that kind of stuff, and the whole rice thing is still weird. I will go to say that, like, thinking more about it, there is probably Sony obviously has some sway for the Spider-Man license just with everything, especially now that, you know, the movies, they always have the movie rights, so that's obviously something. And Spider-Man PS4 selling so well. I can't remember if I mentioned this during the discussion or not, or I mentioned it. Oh yeah, wanted to say it, but I forgot. Is people need to remember, for the Spider-Man game, is not because PlayStation owned the rights. They were literally offered by Marvel, like, hey, make a game for us. And so they're like, oh, okay, Insomniac, make a Marvel game. Any character you want. It's like, we want Spider-Man. Because of course they fucking want Spider-Man. Who doesn't want Spider-Man?
Exactly. Yes, I would want Spider-Man as well. Yeah, I'm still kind of in the same place where, like, I 100% think something is there. I don't think it is there's
gotta be something to a point, just because they gotta talk about movie thing. But I still don't think there was some kind of weird, like, game exclusivity deal in that movie.
But I think it's the type of thing that I think it is more from Sony's side of, Sony wants everyone to associate Spider-Man with Sony, and they already do. It's working because, you know, you have the Sony actual movie, because they actually do own the rights and the films and everything. They have their own films.
The PS4 game.
They have the exclusive PS4 game or whatever, and now it's working because and now you see, we've had this conversation over and over again where no one knows what the hell's going on. And that's probably what Sony kind of wants.
And so many people think they outright own Spider-Man.
Yeah, but, like, they want that to be confusing in that way, and they want, going into the PS5, they want super big Marvel fans to assume I have to buy the PS5 because all future Spider-Man content is going to be, you know, like, this is where, like, I'll be able to, this will be the home of Spider-Man pretty much in gaming. So I think that's what Sony wants the general public to believe. I don't think they actually own exclusive rights to that, but I do think.
Oh no, they won't. That is 100% the plan, and that's how. Like, going back to your whole bottom line thing. That's how people defend. It's like, they obviously want Spider-Man to be, you know, people think they own. It's like, that does nothing to me. That does not help me as a consumer in any way. I don't care
about that. It just and it also keeps Spider-Man from, like, in another, like, none of us, all of us just assume, like, okay, this Avengers game is just not going to have Spider-Man. You tell me Spider-Man could have been important to the story? Like, you could have just put him in there, but now you can't, because it's like,
I can't. Again, it's one of those, I can't remember if we said it on the video or not, but I have two minds of that. It's like, yeah, it's either Spider-Man in particular is not really important, or DLC characters in general aren't. Where, like, they'll have their own little storyline, but not much beyond that.
Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing that sucks. I think Insomniac has said since then, it's kind of their thing, that Spider-Man is going to have his own storyline and own villains. So, like, I'm just going to shout out Green Goblin. Like, Green Goblin could just be in the PS4 version of Avengers. Something like that.
So
it's like,
lame.
that sucks.
They're so lame.
And also, I just want to say this, just in case people don't know. Crystal Dynamics said Spider-Man is the only console exclusive character, so PC and Xbox aren't getting a character to make up for it. Like, some people say, oh, that might be better if they do that. No, Spider-Man is the only.
No, you simply have the lesser version.
Yes,
no, it's just that is the truth.
I swear to God, if this continues and Marvel and Capcom, they make Spider-Man fucking exclusive to a platform.
And the problem is, people will still defend it because, like, I mean, and this is where I do want to. I know that I'm harping on the, like, brand thing and everything over and over again, but I really do think it's something that, like, is important to me and something that, like, actually troubles me a little bit, like, in a more, like, real human level, because I think this happens all over the place, and it's kind of a result of, like, capitalist society, and honestly, in a lot of ways, that, like, a lot of people do get very attached to brands. I mean, you see that even with Apple. There's the things like Apple, like, and because like brands like market in a way, and especially I get it when we're dealing with brands like Microsoft, Nintendo, and PlayStation. They are putting out things, games, and everything, experiences that are very important to us, that are nostalgic to us, and like emotional experiences, like experiences that are tapping into like the emotional sides of our brain and everything, and like stuff that I love, like Sly Cooper, all these other things. Like me and you are sitting here doing this gaming podcast. We love gaming. It means so much to us. And I get the you associate that with this brand and everything, and you can like get this rosy image of them. And I understand, like we even talk about, you love Nintendo, love this, love that. Like, and I think that is great from a fan perspective. But like it's so easy for that to turn into just blind devotion to something. You have to remember those things are separated. There is Mario, there is all these cool things or whatever, but this is a corporation that doesn't have a heart and soul. It is a group. It is a group that is like working to make money, and that is its end goal. And it's just like I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to be able to separate, and it's because that's what they want. This is part of the whole thing, is that their imagery. They want you to associate all those warm childhood fuzzies that came from Sony.
It's kind of like
just the trouble.
Another character where Sony is trying to do that is Crash Bandicoot. Just kind of like we talked about earlier, as Sony obviously has the marketing rights. They're not gonna have exclusive stuff, but they're gonna have skins before the other consoles. Yeah. Which honestly, that's like whatever. It's just a fucking skin. It's
like not a whole character.
Yeah, there's like that's kind of a version of this shitty practice. We're kind of talking shit about right now, but it's all different than all like forever exclusive character, which is the most popular character from the brand. That's like if or close to it, like this Suicide Squad game is announced and Harley Quinn's exclusive to Xbox. Like only
right.
And like people would be pissed.
Yeah.
But for some reason, because Spider-Man's happened to be a little more attached to Sony than other superheroes as a brand.
Yeah, it's one of these things, like it always sucks, but there are degrees. It's like, okay, that sucks, whatever. It's like Spider-Man is about the most egregious thing you could have done to this game, to this Avengers game, is the whole Spider-Man.
It's like weirdly enough, it's approaching the rise of Tomb Raider levels of just kind of egregious. Like the reason that this is more close to that level than it would be because this is forever. This is not a time thing. Right. At least Rise was timed.
Yeah.
And they kind of were cagey about it. They made it clear it kind of at least.
And I want to be clear, the Rise thing sucked.
Yeah,
it sucked.
So when people say, well, what about the Rise thing? It's like, most people who are arguing about the Spider-Man thing probably also thought the Rise thing sucked.
And I also hate that argument. It's like, what about this? It's like, that too. That doesn't make this any less. We're talking about this. We're talking about the 2020 game. It's like, no, I loved the original Tomb Raider, and then it really sucked. It's like, okay, I played the original Tomb Raider on PS3. Let's get ready for the next one. Oh. The sequel, I'm going to have to wait a full year after everyone
Try to
else.
avoid spoilers.
What? Yeah, it sucks. Yeah. But I saw, I've seen, a lot of media people literally say, that Tomb Raider thing, that really sucks. It sucks. But anyway, PlayStation, they're really, they're out for the PlayStation consumer. I'm like, can you not see the hypocrisy? And I'm like, I don't know. Just think about it. I mean, it's hard, but just try to remember, just try to keep those things separated in your mind. Try to remember that, and it's not that you have to hate these companies or anything like that. It's like they create the things that you love, and you can love that and everything, but just remember to hold them accountable, because they don't have your best interest in mind. They have money in mind because it's a corporation,
Okay, Dari, now that we talked about this, let's go back to Pikmin and let me defend taking out the Wii U decision real quick.
Okay, go for that.
Man, I can't even defend that from a money-making standpoint.
No, there is no defense.
The funny thing is, Nintendo, I know this is a tangent, but a lot of their asinine decisions, you can't even do the whole, it makes it from a business standpoint. A lot of stuff I don't know what you're doing, Nintendo. This makes no sense.
No one does. No one understands.
Start with the Spider-Man stuff. We talk about it's kind of exclusive in general as far as how this stuff is. Yeah. I guess I guess also it's kind of the fear that this whole thing is going to continue. Sony is annoying me a little more with their money hiding. An example, it's kind of a smaller, different thing, but Little Devil Inside, the game that was shown at the June event, that was a Kickstarter game. It was promised on certain platforms, including Xbox, and I think they might be going to PC else right away. But they announced it's going to be PS4 timed exclusive. After it promised people who paid for your funding, it was going to be on this system.
Yeah, that's
I mean that's something we could also just point at the dev, like, why are you doing this, like, kind of thing. But also I think we can, like, I don't know, I think Sony, I know that, you know, the whole, they need to make money, they want to make their console more appealing. It's like, come on.
And I think you can do both. You can blame both. You don't have,
definitely
you don't have to
blame
do
both
whatever.
there. It's like, why?
And like, I mean, it really does seem like Sony's getting very aggressive. You even see like Ghostwire and Deathloop.
Yeah.
Then they had the Xbox on their like previous things, and then now those are
well, and also I just want to say, like, as far as like potential differences between some of this stuff, and you might remember an example that kind of blows up what I'm about to say in my face, and feel free to if you think of something. But like when people point out the Microsoft timed exclusives and stuff, a lot of those are kind of smaller games that are going to benefit from like Game Pass and stuff. And there's a thing that came out recently, or there's been increased talk recently that Sony platforms in general are not as friendly to indie developers as it once was. We're seeing increased indie stuff like in these past couple things, but those are carefully picked by Sony, where it seems like Microsoft and Nintendo, and obviously like it's more friendly to them in a general sense.
No, in the PS3 era, they were very big on indies, but like for the PS4, it's only been a very, very recent thing they've started doing that. Whereas Xbox has had their ID at Xbox for a long time. Nintendo's obviously been doing the indies for a long time. No, I think that's fair.
Yeah, so I think it's some of that is less than maybe Microsoft money hiding as much as like aggressively, and more like, okay, this makes sense for the developer, especially a smaller developer as well. Whereas Ghostwire and Deathloop, Bethesda didn't need that money for the exclusivity.
Yeah,
that's just, and especially since Ghostwire was announced for Xbox, and now it's just like that's just erased. Like we have no word or when it would go there now.
Yeah, which and all of this sucks. I mean, like, obviously, I mean, I'm about to. We're about to end the podcast, but I'm about to like go a little more radical in ideology with this than I wouldn't say that, like, 'cause I do believe what I'm about to say, but I know it'll never happen or whatever. But like, while like I understand there's things like, you know, Last of Us. Yeah, it was made by Sony. It's going to be put on Sony platforms and everything, and that makes sense. I really do, honestly, especially the older I'm getting, and especially now that I'm starting to play like PC and other things like that, I really, really, really do wish, in a way, and I don't 100% know how it would go, but I do wish that all of these, like Sony, Microsoft, everything, were just making games for a platform. I wish that like it was like PC. You see on PC, they don't have like Asus exclusive games, Dell exclusive games. It's just
they're games that don't go on Linux or Linux.
But you know, for the most part, I mean, there's like Steam and Epic, but it's like doesn't cost you anything. Other people make a big deal about it. I don't give a shit. You know, I can play those things. Like it works. Yeah. Like people talk about like the one console future or whatever. That would never work or whatever. But it's like, I don't know. Push back on that a little bit, because like on PC it is a completely open market and it's fine. There's no problems. I really would love it. Like, and I think people would push back on this, and I don't really know why. Like, I think it would be like, I really would love in a perfect world that it is like there is just, you can have a PC, but you can also buy a game box. You can buy a box if you want to have something on your TV or whatever, and like
Steam boxes.
Everything just works for it. You know, like because like at the end of the day, Xbox and PlayStation are very much the same box. It's just like this one is owned by this company. This
that's what the argument would potentially be against that is that's why, you know, Sony and Microsoft are fighting to get all this exclusive stuff to make their box different, and that's obviously.
But again, all that's kind of like artificial stuff. Your actual box is just like you basically have to buy 2 PCs.
Yeah.
If you want to play all these games, which is really stupid. When you really stop and think about it, like having to buy a PlayStation and an Xbox is really fucking stupid because you're just buying 2 PCs that are pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
You don't even need to buy. I mean, if you have an actual PC, you don't even need to buy the Xbox.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what Xbox wants.
Yeah.
I mean, Xbox is kind of going towards that a little more, like that general thing of just kind of.
Oh, they are. No, they are. Like if PlayStation just did what Xbox is doing, I just have my PC. That'd be golden.
And Switch.
And Switch, yeah, because obviously Switch is. I didn't include Switch in there because they are different.
Yeah,
I mean, because they are different. They offer you something different. You know, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing potentially, and this is the argument I can kind of maybe, the argument I see like where argument I have against when people say Nintendo should go third party is if PlayStation and Microsoft, maybe that's Microsoft because Game Pass is a thing, didn't have their boxes, they wouldn't make as much of their exclusives probably. They would make their big AAA ones probably, the ones that would be the big money makers, but they wouldn't make the smaller ones like Concrete Genie, for example, probably would not be made. Dreams probably would not be made.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that.
Sony gaming division in general might not be as big if they didn't have the big boxes to go along with it.
That'd be my argument against that. But I would love what you're saying, and these people still pump out the games.
It's just weird because when you stop, it's easy to get caught up in the PlayStation versus the Xbox thing. When you stop and think about the device you're actually buying, it kind of sucks. You basically have to pay $1,000 to buy 2 different pieces.
What's kind of weird is people that I've seen talk online and some people in real life when they talk about, oh man, I would never get like a PlayStation. I'm all Xbox or vice versa. Like they only play third party games.
It's like, what's the difference?
Yeah. It's like, what's the point?
And I really do. I hope we get to the future where everything does just go to PC. And it's like, if you want to have your box for the convenience of having it in front of your TV, go for it. But also, everything's just going to go there. So if you want it, it's like, you know, and you're still getting money because I'm just buying your games. But it's like,
obviously Microsoft is there. Like, they don't care. It's like, it's a weird thing with the Microsoft where people kind of like, don't you want me to buy your Xbox? I can just get your games on PC. It's like, that's what they want. They just want your money. And they will be getting it either way.
Which I'm still, again, not 100% convinced that everyone at Xbox is on that branding, but if they are, I mean, I think it's a good idea. I really think it's a good idea to compete.
Well, I will say, if them as a company that's not what they're trying to do, they're doing a terrible job. I guess then, if their job is just get your money any way possible, they're doing a very good job.
Yeah. Well, that was a good conversation, Jeffrey. It's good to be back in the saddle again.
Got almost exactly 2 hours.
I knew it would happen, but hey, it could have been worse.
It could have been much worse.
Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next week. Don't think we have any exciting new games that we're playing, but we'll update you.
We will have impressions on Fall Guys next week.
Oh, yes. We absolutely will.
The game that nobody else is playing.
Yeah, you know, little game. Don't know. I hope we can even play because so many people play. All right. Peace.
Bye.